Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, may the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. So as we study the life of Holy Mother, we understand, we come to have a greater and greater understanding of her immensity, her limitlessness, the fact that there are no boundaries for her. She may live the life of a simple village woman in Jairambati, and she may live the life, as she said, of a caged bird in Calcutta, there so that the devotees would have ready access to her. Many devotees were her disciples, and many came to her, and others who were neither devotees nor disciples. They simply came to Mother and were changed by her, of course. So we're in this chapter about the various aspects of the Mother. And the subhead we start with this evening is, I am the mother of the virtuous and the wicked. So that you'll notice, for those of you who have the book, you'll notice that it's in quotes. So this is some words that she said. I am the mother of the virtuous and the wicked. So Swami Chaitanananda begins, in this world there is no glory in making a good person good, but it is praiseworthy if one can make a bad person good. Now notice the simplicity of that sentence. In this world there is no glory in making a good person good, but it is praiseworthy if one can make a bad person good. Which perfectly helps us understand why it was when Christ was asked, why do you spend so much time with the publicans and the sinners? The publicans were the tax collectors and the other minor officials of the Jewish part of the Roman Jewish cooperation for ruling Palestine at that time. Why do you spend so much time with the publicans and the sinners? And he said, because they are the ones who need me. So he was giving the grace of his presence, which is by itself, of course, transformative to those people who needed him. And the Swami goes on to say, one cannot help a weak person or a sinner by reminding him of his weakness or sin. No one in this world is absolutely good or absolutely bad. The mother knew her children's bad and good qualities. The mother knew her children's bad and good qualities. She said, people by nature often do evil things. How few know how to make them good. Probably in 1901, Holy Mother was staying at a rented house at 10/2 Boshpara Lane, Bagh Bazaar. Swamiji had sent an Orison servant away from Bellarmont for stealing. Vivekananda had sent this person away for stealing. He was a poor man and his family depended on his income. The helpless man went to the mother, confessed his crime, and begged her forgiveness. Everyone who was close to the situation knew that the mother was the real head of the Ramakrishna order. So this helpless man went to the mother, confessed his crime, and begged her forgiveness. The mother gave him shelter and fed him. In the afternoon, when Premananda came to pay his respects to her, the mother said to him, "Look, Baburam." Mother always called the boys by their pre-monastic names. When Premananda came to pay his respects to her, the mother said to him, "Look, Baburam, this man is very poor. Impelled by poverty, he committed a mistake. For that reason, Naren reprimanded him and drove him out. You see, this world is full of misery. You are monks, so you understand very little of it. Take him back to Bellarmont." Now, this was Mother's direct wish. Premananda tried to convince the mother, Premananda tried to convince the mother that this might displease Swamiji. Agitated, the mother said, "I say, take him back." When Premananda returned to the mat with the servant, Swamiji remarked, "Look at Baburam's senseless act. He has brought back that fellow." When Premananda told Swamiji the whole story, he did not utter another word. Now, we've read before of Swami Vivekananda's, Naren's, helplessness before the mother. He truly would be just reduced to a shivering boy in her presence because he understood who she is. Forget the was, who she is. So Swamiji remarked, "Look at Baburam's senseless act. He has brought back that fellow." When Premananda told Swamiji the whole story, Swamiji did not utter another word. Holy Mother had all sorts of devotees. Some were pure and virtuous, some impure and sinful, and some strange and crazy. As the 5 fingers of a person are not all of equal length, so all of a mother's children are not the same. Generally, a mother is more compassionate to her weak children than to her strong ones. A young disciple of the mother talked privately to her on the northern veranda of her room in Udbodhan house. A young disciple of the mother talked privately to her on the northern veranda of her room in Udbodhan house. He lamented, "Mother, I have suffered a lot because of my bad karma. You are my guru, chosen deity, and all in all. In fact, I have committed so many sins that I am ashamed to tell them to you. Your grace is holding me." The mother caressed his head with her hand and said, "Despite everything, a son remains a son to his mother." Touched by the mother's affection, the young man said, "Mother, you are right. I have received so much grace from you, but may I never think that your grace is easily available." How wise of him to say this. In other words, he's saying, let me never take you for granted. Mother, you are right. I have received so much grace from you, but may I never think that your grace is easily available. An educated young man from a wealthy family in a village close to Jairambati received initiation from Holy Mother. He established an ashrama in his village and did a lot of social work. Unfortunately, he fell in love with a young widow who was a close relative. Gossip spreads fast from mouth to mouth. The people of Jairambati heard about it, and the devotees asked Holy Mother to forbid him from visiting. The mother was sad when she learned of her disciples' fall, but she said, I am a mother. How can I forbid him from seeing me? Such words will never pass through my lips. I am a mother. How can I forbid him from seeing me? Such words will never pass through my lips. That young man continued to visit the mother, and one day he brought the woman to her. The mother considered it to be providence and forgave them. There was a young widow in Jairambati who was very poor and earned her livelihood by hard manual labor. She did not remember when she had been married, or even who her husband had been. It was only when she grew up that she learned she was a widow, and at that time a Hindu widow could not marry again. Such girls generally lived with their parents or husband's family, like maidservants. She used to be called to the mother's house to carry the devotee's luggage. The mother had great affection for this young widow. When the girl attained womanhood, she fell in love with a young man, and when their love affair became known, there was a big commotion in that conservative society. Hard-hearted social leaders wanted to punish her. Does this remind you of an episode in Christ's life? Hard-hearted social leaders wanted to punish her. For most of her life, no one had thought to help her or give her any education, and now they began to verbally abuse her. Holy Mother heard the whole story and was worried about the young woman's future. She wholeheartedly prayed to God for the young woman's welfare. God answered Holy Mother's prayer. A wealthy landlord of a neighboring village, who was a disciple of the mother, intervened and reminded the leaders to have a compassionate outlook toward that girl. Peace returned to the village. The mother heaved a sigh of relief. When that landlord came to bow down to the mother, she joyfully blessed him, saying, My son, you have saved that poor girl from misery. I am extremely pleased and relieved. May the Lord bless you for this intervention. These are little incidents, We're hearing these little incidents in the mother's life. They may not seem all that significant, but if you let your heart rest on them, you'll see when that conservative, tough society of that village was going to be hard on the mother, hard on that girl. The mother prayed for her. As a result, one can say something happened. This wealthy landlord from another village intervened. All these things may seem trivial, but they're instructive to us right now. This is the mother. That's why I corrected the phrase when I said she was. No, it's not that she was. She is. She is just the same now for us as she was for them then. Swami Keshavananda related an important incident that took place in Kualpura in 1919. One day I said to the mother, "Mother, your health is not good and you are suffering from illness off and on. The person who is cooking for you, you know her questionable character. If you allow me, I can find another cook for you." Excuse me. You are suffering from illness off and on. The person who is cooking for you, you know her questionable character. If you allow me, I can find another cook for you. Now, I'm sure all of you understand the significance of this. There is energy in the food that we take. The energy is inflected by the person who prepares it. So the fact that this woman had a questionable character, the Swami Keshavananda was saying, this may be contributing to your illness. The fact that this food is not as pure as it could be. If you allow me, I can find another cook for you. Hearing my words, the mother became very grave and then said, "If you wish, you can get rid of her. But if I forsake her, where will she go? If you wish, you can get rid of her. But if I forsake her, where will she go?" I immediately fell at the mother's feet and begged forgiveness. "Mother, I made a big mistake. Please be gracious to me and forgive me." Who else can give this kind of reassurance? If I forsake her, where will she go? Whatever we may be, we are none other than the mother's children. This is the Swami speaking. Whatever we may be, we are none other than this mother's children. She herself said, "If my children are covered with dirt, I will have to take them on my lap after cleaning and washing them. If my children are covered with dirt, I will have to take them on my lap after cleaning and washing them. I am the real mother and not a foster mother." Now, this cleaning and washing them, this may result in some unpleasantness for us. The process of purification is not always pleasant. But the idea is that after the purification, Mother takes you on her lap. And this we can be reassured of from not only this book, but from so many sources. So let's just pause there a moment and see if there are any comments or questions from anyone about the mother and her relationship with both the good people, like the landlord from the neighboring village, and the young widow who committed a mistake. Anything at all in the way of comments or questions?
Shankara, what I think is this is more like a social work rather than religion.
Sham, Swami Brahmananda said, show me the line of demarcation. Show me the line of demarcation where the world of matter ends and the world of spirit begins. There is no line of demarcation.
That's true.
And so it may seem to our minds like social work, but this level of forgiveness, this level of compassion is far along the spectrum from the material world to the spiritual world. There is no line of demarcation. And when Christ saved the woman from being stoned to death, what did he say? I mean, according to the rules, the social rules of that time, that woman who had been caught in flagrante in adultery was to be stoned to death. And she was surrounded by people with stones in her hands, with stones in their hands. And hearing her cries, Christ came. And someone said, "Well, Rabbi, what do you say?" Expecting him to enforce the law. And he said, "Let him among you who is without sin cast the first stone." So was that social work? Or was that a great lesson for us in judgment and enforcing cruel social norms?
But some people, they draw hard lines, of, what they think of religion according to them, and they just go by that.
Well, as Sri Ramakrishna said, everyone thinks their watch tells the right time. Our opinions about God don't mean very much. How can our opinions about the infinite, the omnipresent, the omnipotent, the omniscient, how can our opinions about that signify very much? So yes, you're right. Some people do that. Let us pay no heed. Let us look to the fact that the divine presence is beyond all definition, beyond all explanation, and furthermore, we are that. As Vivekananda said, we are infinite dreamers, dreaming finite dreams. So let us pay no attention to those who wish to enforce or make predominant their opinion about what God is and what God wants. As we're hearing what is so beautifully explained, Mother is the mother of the universe is the mother of the wicked as well as the virtuous. And those people who wish to draw a hard line around religion and say, this far and no farther, well, they're welcome to their cage. But let us not be imprisoned there. Let's look to the divine as it is expressed to us in this book, as it's expressed in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, the great Master, and for that matter, in the Gospels of Jesus Christ. Thank you, Sham. You're right. People do that. Let's not engage with them. We can't persuade them. It's none of our business to persuade them. They're welcome to their cage. And it's not up to us to try to free them from it, because we cannot. Only they can do it when the time is right. So thank you. Anyone else? Anything?
Brother Shankara, this is
Yes, dear.
And that is the way what you read was very true in those days. Even early 1900s, things were like that. Even 1960s, it was like that when I was growing up. When the girl becomes a widow or divorced, and that's the end of her life. That's it. She will be at home. Even now, still in villages, some areas, I still see that orthodox type of treatments for women. And I mean,
Yes.
majority of it has changed so much through education. And after Indira Gandhi became Prime Minister of India, things have changed tremendously. And that's the way. Mother is an embodiment of compassion. We needed more people like her. Yeah,
Oh, yes.
definitely.
And Vivekananda said this would happen. He
Yes.
said the other wing, the other wing of the bird, would heal, and the bird would fly on both wings, both the masculine energy and the divine feminine energy would be in the coming time would be prevalent. But you're right. There's still a lot of people right here in the United States.
Exactly.
There are major figures, Jimmy Carter, Bill Moyers, that have left the Southern Baptist Convention because of their insistence that women are subordinate, subservient, and less than men.
That's right. That's right.
Both Jimmy Carter and Bill Moyers made very impassioned statements, and there have been others.
Yes, and I just want to make one more comment. Impelled by poverty, he committed a mistake. Mother said that about that poor, very poor man who made a mistake. And
Yes.
it's very true. A lot of crimes are committed because of low economic status. Not all of them, most of them, majority of them. When the economics are uplifted, then the crime will go down. And that same philosophy, when they use it now in India, the poor people, they're getting paid all the medical expenses. Now, a lot of rich people are rebelling it. You know, when I went to India last time, they were all saying, oh, they get paid everything. I said, why not? They shouldn't be getting paid. You know, you and I can pay the bills. They need help. That's why they're lifting them up.
Yeah.
And they don't like it. They don't like it. They think I'm taking their side, but that is true, isn't it? Reality wise,
Yes.
even
As Robert Reich pointed out, there's nothing wrong with poor people except they don't have enough money.
exactly, you have to lift them up a little bit to get to a level so they can be equal, and then the crime will reduce. That is the whole idea.
The society will change.
Yes.
As in time, but
Here, yes, I experienced as a social worker here, when the poor people are getting paid for the food and all this, other people rebel. Oh, they're paying them everything. Why would they go to school? Why would they do this? Why would they work hard? I said, no, no, no. They need little help in the beginning, and then they will go little further. There are a lot of people who went back to college.
You're absolutely right.
Exactly, and that's
People
bit
need compassionate help.
more compassion.
Swami Prabhavananda was asked whether
Yes.
you should give money to someone who asked you. He said, if you have it to give, give.
Exactly. Exactly. Totally. Thank you, Brother Shankar. I just wanted to make those comments.
Thank you, dear. Anything else from anyone? All right. The first sentence. The only thing I would do is change the verb here. It says, Holy Mother was all-knowing and the Savior of the fallen. That's true. But I would change the verb to Holy Mother is all-knowing and the Savior of the fallen. Swami Prabhavananda wrote this eyewitness account of a famous actress who led a sinful life and came to the mother for succor, for help. One morning at 8 o'clock, a woman came to Udbodhan house by car. One morning at 8 o'clock, a woman came to Udbodhan house by car. She walked straight to the steps as if the house were known to her. Later, I learned that it was her first visit. The mother was in her room with Yogin Ma, Golap Ma, and the wife of Dr. Oh my goodness, somebody Ghosh.
Agoranath.
Agoranath Ghosh. The mother was talking when all of a sudden she said to her companions, Please wait a little. I will return soon. She walked from her room toward the steps. Now, this is an example of the all-knowing and all-compassionate mother. She was talking with people and suddenly she said, Please wait a little. I will return soon. She walked from her room toward the steps. The woman on the steps was a well-known actress. She was sobbing with her head on the railing of the steps. The mother came down. The mother came down, touched her head, and then hugged her affectionately. Then the mother said to her, When you come to the Master, you will not have to cry anymore. This assurance made the woman cry even harder. The mother led her upstairs and wiped her eyes with the corner of her cloth. Imagine. This is an Orthodox Brahmin woman hugging this woman and wiping her eyes with the corner of her cloth. Holy Mother said, Now go to the Master and bow down to him with a smiling face. On the upper veranda, the actress first bowed down to the mother, who blessed her by touching her head. The mother also touched her chin with her fingers and kissed them, which was her way of showing love and affection. This is the way a mother, in those days, that a mother kissed her children. She took the actress to the shrine. Pointing to the Master's picture on the altar, she said, Now bow down to the Master. That noon, the actress had her prasad sitting next to the mother, who shared some of her food with her. She took the actress to the shrine. Pointing to the Master's picture on the altar, she said, Now bow down to the Master. That noon, right, in other words, 4 hours had passed. She came at 8 o'clock in the morning. That noon, the actress had her prasad sitting next to the mother, who shared some of her food with her. This woman, whom Orthodox society would have reviled, The mother knew of her presence, walked down the steps to her. And just to remind you, the mother had rheumatism in her knees. It was not comfortable for her to walk up and down those steps. She walked down to her, touched her head, hugged her, and then took her up and stayed, and the woman stayed all morning long. You can imagine the transformation in this woman. It wouldn't have happened all at once. Could have happened all at once, but not likely. Another time the mother was staying at Jagadamba Ashrama in Kualpura. A young woman from a low-caste family came to her with a broken heart and complained that her paramour had suddenly deserted her. She wept bitterly as she related her sad tale to the mother. She had even given up her friends and family to live with him, and now she was completely helpless. Touched by her sad plight, the mother sent for the man and rebuked him gently. This girl has given up everything and everyone for you, and you have taken her service for a long time. Now, if you leave her, you will incur a great sin. You won't find a place, even in hell. The mother's words penetrated his heart. He had a change of heart and accompanied that girl home. It was not possible for Holy Mother to see faults in others, and she did not like others seeing faults either. Once in Jairambati, some devotees complained to Holy Mother that someone who had been her attendant now lived in Rishikesh and was quarreling with the monks there. They added, "How could he have such bad tendencies after having lived with you and served you so long?" When they left, Holy Mother said to Brahmachari Bharata, "My son, I can no longer see or hear of anyone's faults. One will have to read the results. One will have to reap the results of one's own past karma. If one was destined to have a deep cut, at the very least, one would get the prick of a needle." They talked about A's faults. They talked about A's faults to me, but where were they in those days? They talked, oh, this is the mother speaking, yes. They talked about A's faults to me, but where were they in those days? He served me so well. In those days, I lived with my brother's family, and I would boil the paddy and then husk it. I used to do all the household work because my sisters-in-law were quite young. Without caring for cold or rain and covered with soot, A would help me by taking the big vessels of boiled paddy down from the wooden stove. Now many devotees come, but who was helping me then? Should I forget it all? Well, people should not be blamed. Previously, I noticed people's shortcomings. Later, I prayed to the Master with tears, "Master, may I never see faults in others." Thus, after long prayers, I got rid of that bad habit. One of the devotees in this congregation used to have a teacher a spiritual teacher in the North Georgia mountains. His name was J.C. Gazoy. He was of Native American extraction, and he had quite a following. Quite a number of people came to see him. And, like we just heard of Holy Mother, sometimes when one of his group wasn't there, some of the other members of the group would gossip and complain about that person. And JC would listen to them for a while, and then he would just, maybe by a gesture, stop them. And he would say, these were his words quoted to me by the devotee, "Well, all that may be true, but we're just going to go on and love them anyway. All that may be true, but we're just going to go on and love them anyway." And if that was not a potent instruction, certainly the devotee who told me the story took it as a very potent instruction. And so we should take Holy Mother's prayer to the Master. Later, I prayed to the Master with tears, "Master, may I never see faults in others." Thus, after long prayers, I got rid of that bad habit. Notice that she says, this is the Mother of the universe in human form. After long prayers, I got rid of that bad habit. Any comments or questions from anyone about where we've come so far in this story?
Meditation truly helps in getting rid of those bad habits too, Brother Shankara. A lot of times, to me personally, if I find something that I want to change in me, meditation, going deep into consciousness, really helps a lot.
Yes, indeed it does, because it allows us to see clearly.
We see very clearly
what it is that we're doing.
our downfalls.
Yes, in meditation,
Exactly.
we are able to be the witness, and so see
That's right.
what it is we're doing, and get some sense of the effects of it. What are the consequences? What is the karma that's being generated by it?
This chapter.
Sometimes we're downright horrified.
Exactly. This chapter has been so heartwarming and touching, Brother Shankara.
Thank you.
So compassionate, so much compassion in her.
Indeed.
In her eyes and mind and touching everything. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anything?
Yeah, yes, Brother Shankar, it is very hard not to find fault in others. That's our nature, you know.
Well, that's why.
First thing,
but she said.
Yeah, but it's very hard to do that in practice, you know.
Yes, it is. That's why she said. Later, I prayed to the Master with tears. "Master, may I never see faults in others." Thus, after long prayers, I got rid of that bad habit. So what are the components here? First, seeing it as a bad habit. Then having the intention to get rid of the bad habit. Then applying through prayer persistently over a long period. So when you say, Sham, and you're absolutely right, it's very hard not to find fault in others. But one of the things that is true about judgment, finding fault, it is just a way to keep reality at arm's length. If we box it up, if we judge it, if we say, I know what that is, that's what that is, and I judge it, and find fault with others or whatever it is that we're doing, it means we don't have to really deal with it. We don't have to deal with our own feelings about it. We don't have to deal with the other person honestly and sincerely. and compassionately. So judgment, finding fault, judgment. It's good for us to remind ourselves it's just a way to keep the reality of this situation at arm's length so I don't have to deal with it. And so there are ways of dealing with it. The mother said prayer, Haima said meditation. Both are they work very well. But first we have to recognize that it truly is a bad habit, and then develop the strong intention to rid ourselves of that bad habit. Because, as Jesus said, judge not, lest ye be judged. As ye sow, so shall ye reap. So if you don't want to be judged harshly by others, then you must not. It doesn't mean we don't observe. It doesn't mean we don't observe what's going on. Mother, as was pointed out here, was very clear-eyed about everything that was going on. She saw far beyond what other people saw. So it isn't that we don't observe. We simply don't judge it. And Sham's right. It is a hard thing to overcome. And the only way to do it is to develop the intention that we want to do it, want to be rid of it. It is a jail for us. Thank you, Sham.
That's also isn't that a sign of unripened ego, Brother Shankara?
Of course. Anytime it's all about I, me, mine,
Yeah, exactly.
that's a sign of unripe ego. Anything else?
Namaste, Brother Shankara. Namaste, everybody.
Yes, hello there, Shailesh.
Yeah, I'm so glad that Swamiji has included this in the book, because there is a tendency of not including some things like that in the book when they elaborate a divine figure. But it's like Haimaji said, it's an amazingly wonderful chapter. I joined a little bit late today, but whatever I've been hearing, you know what I learned from this incident is it sometimes when you are trying to find answers, you will get this spot on, and that's what I felt when I heard this. Good. I think it's what I see is that Maya is so difficult to overcome, and even Divine Mother or Holy Mother here had to pray, and so obviously I see that self-surrender is so important, and prayer again I see, and it can be any. Here it's fault finding, but it can be anything which we are trying to overcome. It can be a bad habit, and in my case, I've seen it so difficult. You know, when without spiritual practice and you just slip. I feel I slip, and I think it's a very good lesson here mentioned here. And like you said, we have to identify it initially. At least that I think comes from grace. that that I'm able to identify that something is wrong, what I'm doing, and then prayer and surrender and very nice.
Swami Vivekananda says that grace comes from within.
Yeah,
it comes from within us, the divine presence within us. It's you know, in technical terms, it's called the buddhi. And so our ability to see the good and the bad, the pleasant and the good, the inauspicious and the auspicious. This is the buddhi faculty. And it's only after we begin spiritual practice as Swami Atishwarananda points out in spades, most people, I mean, he's talking about the mass of humanity, most people are never really aware that the buddhi exists. You know, they have that still small voice of conscience that they talk about, but we learn very young. We learn from our elders to ignore it, to ignore our conscience, because we see our parents be deceptive, even if they aren't deliberately doing it. There's the lies of commission and the lies of omission, and the sins of commission and the sins of omission. And so children learn very, very quickly what the rules are. And so we're very fortunate, and it is grace, when we have become self-aware enough to hear the voice of the buddhi, to hear that, to be reminded and shown this is inauspicious. This is not leading us in the right direction. Thanks, Shailesh. That was good. And as always, thanks for your sincerity and your willingness to tell us of yourself.
Brother Shankara, this whole chapter is pretty much like so much of the unconditional love, like Carl Roger, who always supported the unconditional positive regard. That's what Mother has been showing continuously throughout the book, and especially in this chapter, a lot more. Every paragraph has the compassion, unconditional positive regard, everyone there.
Well, she says,
She,
previously I noticed people's shortcomings.
yes, we all have those. Yeah, some of us have those.
So yes, you're absolutely right.
It's accepting and taking full responsibility to make changes is the hardest part. That's where,
that's that, developing the intention.
yes, she gave easy recipe here. Long prayers, get rid of that bad habits.
Yes.
That's just amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brother Shankara?
Yes, Swam.
Just sort of extrapolating what we talk about in that language of compassion class, Marshall Rosenberg's.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I think we judge ours out of some kind of feeling or need of our own that we haven't recognized and met. And so we reflect that onto the others.
You're absolutely right, dear. And that is why we do it. In Alcoholics Anonymous, they have a wonderful saying. The saying is, if you spot it, you got it. In other words, you see it because it exists in you. And they say, when you're pointing the finger at another, notice how many fingers are pointing back at you. So you're absolutely right, Swam. And of course, Rosenberg correctly, and Clarice correctly interpret this as it's an unmet something in ourselves that causes us to react that way to others. As Sri Ramakrishna says, a child, there's a bag of gold in the room, and the child is alone in the room, and a thief comes in and takes the bag of gold. But the child does not see a thief because they don't know, they have no attachment to the gold. So you're absolutely right. And I love that AA saying, if you spot it, you got it. There are so many of those in AA.
Thank you, Brother Shankar.
Yeah. And as you've identified in that the name of that class, it's through compassion for ourselves first, and then for others, that we're able to speak, think, speak, and act compassionately. We have a few minutes left. Anything else from anyone? All right. Holy Mother always saw the good qualities in her children. Ramakrishna accepted disciples only after testing them, but the mother accepted everyone who came to her without discrimination. Now, let those who have ears to hear. We need have no shame, no thought of worthiness in going to the mother. The mother accepted everyone who came to her without discrimination. It is not possible for a real mother to reject her bad children and welcome only the good ones. Once M was the one who wrote the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna from the notes he took of what Sri Ramakrishna said. Once M was so offended by the conduct of a certain devotee that he requested the mother not to allow him to be anywhere near her. She replied, "If my son is besmeared with dust and dirt, I will have to clean him and take him on my lap." Now, M was very saintly himself. I mean, he was, as Sri Ramakrishna said, he had been part of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's inner circle. And then he was part of the master's inner circle. This was a man who definitely had the opportunity to develop the ripest of egos. But once M was so offended by the conduct of a certain devotee that he requested the mother not to allow him to be anywhere near her. She replied, "If my son is besmeared with dust and dirt, I will have to clean him and take him on my lap." Girish Ghosh, the Bohemian devotee of Ramakrishna, said, "The master gave shelter to a horrible sinner like me. If I had known that there was such a large dustbin to dump all my sins in, I would have enjoyed more pleasures in my life." This is the wonderful thing about Girish. Man, this guy was completely sincere, always, always. He was abusive to the master when he came. He was drunk. He would call him names and so on. It even offended the master a little at one point. Girish Ghosh, the Bohemian devotee of Ramakrishna, said, "The master gave shelter to a horrible sinner like me. If I had known that there was such a large dustbin to dump all my sins in, I would have enjoyed more pleasures in my life." Like the master, the mother also gave shelter to many people with questionable character. Although her whole body burnt with their sins, she endured it silently without a murmur. She would sometimes ask that her feet be washed with Ganges water, though, after someone had left and touched her feet. One afternoon, when the visitors had left, Brahmachari Rashbahari saw the mother washing her feet. I didn't realize I said this. One afternoon, when the visitors had left, Brahmachari Rashbahari saw Holy Mother washing her feet up to the knees again and again. When she was asked why, she replied, "Don't allow anyone to salute me by touching his head to my feet. Thus all sins enter through my body, and my feet burn. So I have to wash my feet. For this reason I suffer from illness. tell people to bow down from a distance. Then she immediately changed her mind and said, please don't tell these things to Sharat. He will stop salutations altogether. And of course, Sharat, Swami Saradananda, was very protective of the mother. So it's 9 o'clock, and the Swami's about to go off in a little bit of a different direction. We can pause there. Is there anything that anyone would like to offer right at the end here? Anything at all? Questions or comments? Well, one thing that I think we can all keep in mind is these wonderful stories of the mother and her words. These are her very words. This is a direct quote. When you are in distress, remember you have a mother. When you are in distress, remember you have a mother. We are never really alone in this world in that sense. And since I've been here, since August of 2010, there have been a number of instances in which people have turned to the mother in their distress, and their situation changed remarkably. And the instruction always is to get a picture of the mother, to put that picture where you see it when you wake up in the morning, and then at some time during the day, just sit down, and it's best done first thing in the morning, but at some time during the day, just sit down and pour out your heart to the mother. Pour out your heart, whatever it is that is distress. In some cases, with these people I've spoken of or gestured to, it was loss of employment, loss of relationship, being in a situation where they were being asked to lie at work, and it was they were being offered a promotion, and they knew that if they took the promotion, they would have to participate in even more misrepresentations. In each of these instances that I'm recalling, something truly wonderful happened. But you have to be persistent. You have to in a sense, emphasize your feeling of relationship with the mother. Take her seriously. Anything else from anyone? All right.
I'm ignorant about the timeline. Did Swami Prabhavananda ever meet Holy Mother in person?
Oh yes, yes, yes. Not just he met her when he was just a boy, 14 years old, in the village. She was visiting his home village, and he met her, and one of her attendants called him and his companion over and said, "Would you like to meet Holy Mother?" And he said, "You mean Sri Ramakrishna's wife? This woman just sitting here?" "Yes." And of course he bowed down to her. And then when she was at Ubodan and he was in college, he used to go, she had these weekly darshans, and he would go. And he said the reason that he went was that he was a particularly religious person at the time. He was quite involved, as a matter of fact, in the Indian independence movement, and could have been arrested by the British at any time. But he would go, he said, because when I touched her feet, I received the most pleasant, and he characterized it as a kind of electric shock. So yes, Swami Prabhavananda knew Holy Mother and all those people who were close to her very, very well. Not all of them. He didn't know Swami Yogananda. Yogananda had gone on. But Saradananda, Premananda, Turiyananda, all these people. He was very close to the direct disciples. And of course, Brahmananda was his master, was his guru.
Thank you.
There's a wonderful book that you can learn. It's called A Light to the West. There's copies in the bookshop. It was assembled by Swami Prabhavananda's right-hand person, a nun named Anandaprana, and she published it as a private volume when she was still alive, because she was heeding the order's request that only the direct disciples, the master and mother, have books published about them. But since that, after Anandaprana passed away, since that began to just fall apart in so many ways, that request of the trustees was not being honored by so many, the manuscript was turned over to Brahmaprana, who serves as resident minister in the Dallas, Texas Vedanta Society. And Brahmaprana assembled it as a beautiful little book called A Light to the West. And you can read these stories, very intimate stories of Swami Prabhavananda's relationships with the direct disciples, including Holy Mother.
Thank you. Certainly we'll look at it.
Yeah. Anything else from anyone?
Namaste, everyone. This is Bart.
Yes, Bart.
Hi there. I didn't have time to copy and paste links, but in YouTube, there are a couple of lectures by Swami Prabhavananda about meeting the Holy Mother. So if you want to YouTube and just put in Prabhavananda and Holy Mother, there are at least two that I can find so far.
Wonderful, yes.
So, yeah, then I've heard that on the Southern California website, there are now being released MP3 documents of the Swamiji's lectures in the archives, and so that's a good resource too. So just passing that along. I'm old and slow with the laptop, and I can't figure out how to post these links in time. It's already after 9, but there's something to go on.
Send them. Art, send the links to Cindy.
Okay, right.
Or to me, and I'll forward them to her. But
wonderful. Okay.
And she'll know what to do with them.
Okay. All right. Bless you, everyone. Namaste. Thank you.
Namaste. Thank you, Bart. Yes, there's so much that has been mined out of the Vedanta Society of Southern California's archives. Swami Krishnananda, Swami Prabhavananda's sevak, is the monk that took care of him. He recorded and photographed so much and transcribed the Swami's lectures. That's how we have the book Realizing God, because he would after Swami would give a talk, Swami Prabhavananda, you would hear Swami Krishnananda clicking away on his manual typewriter through the night, transcribing that talk into hard copy. And so Edith Tipple Nalini, the Swami's disciple, was able to pull together that wonderful book, Realizing God, which we study on Saturdays. Anything else from anyone? All right. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya. Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya. Mrityorma Amritangramaya. Abir, Abir, Mighty. Oh, dear Lord, lead us from weak understanding to powerful understanding. Lead us from darkness and ignorance to the brilliance of thy wisdom and love. Lead us from death to immortality. Light us through and through, light us through and through with thy everlasting, shining presence. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ki Jai, Durga Durga Durga. May you be safe, may you be healthy, may you be cheerful, may you have peace of mind. Go forward in the love and Mother's loving and protective embrace. Until next time, which, if you wish, could be as early as tomorrow evening when we study Swami Vivekananda's Jnana Yoga. We're on chapter 8. The title of that is Realization. He's giving us the signposts and directions for how to move from that weak understanding to the powerful understanding. So, and then on Saturday, we have the Realizing God class. And on Sunday, there's going to be a kind of a fun talk. It's serious, but because it's based in a document, a talk given by John Dobson, and there's humor in it. And the title of the talk is The Equations of Maya. The Equations of Maya. How we get the universe out of the three gunas, which are represented by gravity, sattva, electricity, rajas, and inertia, tamas. The equations of Maya. It's a very interesting talk. John Dobson was a very interesting man. So, until the next time we see one another, Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma.
Shankara.
Thank you. Hari Om.
Hari Om, Hari Om.
Thank you, Hari Om.
And everybody keep firmly in mind, get yourself vaccinated if you haven't been vaccinated, and join us on July 4th. That will be our first face-to-face gathering, but there will be a Save Us Saturday, the Saturday before. And those of us who have been vaccinated, we can participate, so we can shine up this place to its very best and get ready for July 4th. So if you've visited just recently, you may have noticed that a lot of wonderful yard work has been done. The yard in front of the chapel is just looking splendid. And the rest of the property, more work will be done tomorrow and so on. We're getting it, after the winter, we're getting it back in hand here. And the place is looking lovely. So if you can, drop by. If you're if it's practical for you, just drop by. And visit the chapel for a while. Let me know you're coming and pop in and see me. and we'll get ourselves all ready for July 4th, which should be a joyous celebration, since it'll be our first face-to-face gathering in all these months, about 18 months. So,
Thank you, Shankara.
Jai Baba.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.